how to title your book. Hey, it's Brian from Hope Books. And if you've been struggling to figure out how to title your book, then I'm going to share with you in this video strategies that have helped us with our authors here at Hope Books. Over the last year, we published 51 books. We run an in-person bookstore here in Matthews, North Carolina. And what I found is the difference between a great title and a poor title is about 1,000 books sold. If you have a great title, you're going to sell more books. This video is going to help you. Now let's go ahead and get started. My number one strategy for titling your book is to come up with the promise. What is it that you want somebody to think, feel, or do as a result of reading your book? What is the promise of your book? How is their life going to change as a result of reading your book? And there's really three categories to that life change. The first one is education. The second one is inspiration. And third one is entertainment. How is their life going to change in terms of education, inspiration, or entertainment? Okay, so let's first start with education. All right, you have something to share, something to teach, something that you did not know how to do that you now know how to do, and you're going to teach it in this book. For example, you're going to show them that there are 5 love languages, and you're going to identify what those are and help them live those out. That would be an educational book, okay? Or you're going to inspire them. You're going to show them that something is possible. I'd probably say like Try Softer is an inspirational book. Yes, you're going to help them live the Try Softer lifestyle, but really you're going to inspire them to say, you know what? There's a different way to live than white knuckling your way through life. Doesn't that sound inspirational? Most faith books are in the inspiration category. I would definitely say like Ann Voskamp's book, 1,000 Gifts, is in the inspiration category. So then the third category of education, of inspiration, what about the third one? That is entertainment. So for example, one of my favorite novels of all time is John Steinbeck's Travels with Charlie. This is an entertaining book. It might inspire you, but really at the end of the day, it's a great story. A great story is meant to entertain. In fact, most novels are about entertainment primarily. So a lot of the kids' books that we have here, for example, is The Hobbit inspirational, educational, or entertainment? Ding, ding, right? It is an entertaining read. Most fiction novels are entertaining first. Now you can entertain in multiple ways, right? You can entertain through drama, through suspense, through romance, through mystery. There's all sorts of ways to entertain. But those are the 3 different categories for your book: education, inspiration, or entertainment. So the question is, how do you want their life to change? How do you want them to think, feel, or do something different in their life? If you consider what I've shared with you so far, think, feel, or do differently, education, inspiration, or entertainment, that means that your title, the best title, is a promise. The best title is actually a brand. If you read this book, then this thing will happen to you. If you read this book, you'll be able to think different. You'll be able to feel different. You'll be able to do different in one of those areas: education, inspiration, or entertainment. So now let's break down a couple titles and see what really works when it comes to titling your book, okay? For example, I love this book by my friends Beth and Jeff McCord. It sold a lot of copies and it's called Becoming Us. Becoming Us. What is the promise of that book? The promise of that book is we're going to do something different. Before the book, as a couple, we weren't us. We hadn't become us yet. But if you read the book, we will become us. Right? It will lead to being us together. So there's this inherent promise in this book, which is I would call this an education book because it teaches all about the Enneagram. This book is going to show you how to become us. Okay, here's another one. I think this one's more inspirational. This is Randy Alcorn's book called The Treasure Principle. Now, why is that inspirational? It's because it's showing you something that was possible before that you might not have believed it for yourself. I have found if it's something that's going to change your belief, it's an inspirational book. If it's something that's going to change your actions, it's an educational book. And of course, this is not a hard and fast rule. Like I would put this book, The 4-Hour Workweek, probably in both the inspirational and educational. What's really interesting is a lot of people will be inspired by a book but never do anything about it. But the real transformation comes when somebody actually implements what they learned in the book. For example, my most recent book is called Your Hope Story, where I teach you the 5-step process to writing your book. Now, you might be inspired by that, go, wow, I didn't know there's a 5-step process. This is going to help me. But at the end of the day, it's education, and I want you to do something different. I want you to actually be able to write your book. And what I say in that book, in Your Hope Story, is that books are not written. Books are built. You got to build your book. There's a 5-step process to building your book that I teach in that book. So let's get back to your title. Your title is a promise. It's a promise kept. Now, how do you get to the point of creating your promise for your book? What I like to do is think about the prison, the promised land, and the path. And that's generally how I recommend you structure your book, okay? You start with where people are stuck at the beginning. So chapter 1, I was really stuck here. This is something that I really struggled with. This is something I was overwhelmed by. This is something I was discouraged by. This is something I dreamed about, but it wasn't possible. I didn't know how to do it. That's your story of stuck. That's generally where you start your book. That's the prison. Then the conclusion of the book, the last chapter of the book, is the promised land. This is what my life looks like now, and it's possible for you. If you follow what I taught in this book, you are going to get there too. So that's the promised land. So then we have the prison, the promised land, and then the path. And your book teaches the path. And that's why I think a great book title is offering a solution to somebody's felt need. So the big question is, who are you writing for? Who are you writing for? For you to title your book, you have to consider, what is it that I want somebody to experience? What is it that I want them to believe? What is it that I want them to know? What is it I want them to be inspired by? And so there's a few different ways to title it based on a promise, okay? So for example, your promise could be, I'm going to teach you something that you didn't know before. So I'm going to teach you the 10x rule, or I'm going to teach you the compound effect. That's one way to do it. I'm going to teach you that today matters. These would all be, I think, probably inspirational books. Then you have more education books, and education books are going to show you exactly how to do something. For example, one of my favorite educational books is Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. It's going to show you how to buy back your time. So essentially what you want to consider is, are you revealing something? Are you teaching something? Are you helping somebody move forward from where they were stuck to where they are? And how can you title it in such a way that is offering the promise in the book? So your title could be the name of the system that you teach in the book, like the compound effect, or like the 12-week year, the 10x rule, things like that. So you could just say, this is the name of the system. The promise in that is that I'm going to show you the system. Like, that's the built-in promise of the book title, is I will show you the system. Another way to title your book is telling them the end results of that system. So this is what's going to happen. This is one of my favorite titles of all time. It's called How Not to Die. If you read this really thick book, you're not going to die. Now, is that a little hyperbole? It probably is. I don't know if anybody's read that book and not died yet. But you're offering the solution at the end to someone's problem. So you're either telling them what the system is called, like Dan Miller's book, 48 Days to the Work You Love. Hey, you're buying a book that will help you over 48 days find work that you love. That's why it's a New York Times bestseller. Or you're telling them what the result of the promise is going to be. For example, James Altucher's book, Choose Yourself. You're going to be like, oh, I don't know exactly what that is, but I know I'm going to be able to do that as a result of reading this book. So your book title is a promise. Somebody sees your book title on Amazon, at a bookstore, at a local bookstore like Hope Books, and they go, that is what I want in my life. And that's why they're going to buy the book. Now, a couple last tips when it comes to your book title. You want it to be something memorable. So for example, one of my favorite books on writing is called Bird by Bird by Annie Lamott. The reason I love this title is because you have to know, it's like an insider secret. It's like an insider secret. You have to know, why does she call a book on writing Bird by Bird? And then what happens is you go, oh yeah, because she's talking about how writing is word by word, page by page, step by step. And she tells a story about her younger brother and how he was working on a project when he was in elementary school. And the mom said to him, just take it one step at a time. bird by bird, buddy. Just do your project bird, like one bird at a time, bird by bird. And she could have called it word by word. She could have called it step by step, but she used a story inside of the book that revealed a secret that people want to know. And you're like, why is she called bird by bird? And as soon as you read that book, you're like, oh, I know the secret. And a title could be a way of revealing something that is like insider language. And you're like, oh, do you understand what it is? That's great. Here's another one called Boundaries. Okay. Boundaries. If you've read the book Boundaries, you're like, oh, I know what this is. It's revealing the promise that people will be able to implement as a result of reading the book. So it's stating as part of the actual title itself. If you read this book, you will understand what boundaries are. You'll know how to have boundaries for yourself. You know how to have boundaries in your life. You'll have clarity around boundaries. Now, we could dive into the subtitle, when to say yes, how to say no, to take control of your life. But the thing is, look how small that is. The subtitle is so small. Most people don't even read the subtitle. The title is a promise. And as a result of seeing the promise, people decide, do I want that or not want that? Okay. Another tip when it comes to your book title is something memorable, something spreadable, something that is unique to your book. One of my mentors, Ryan Holiday, he has a great book called Perennial Seller, which we carry here in the Hope Bookstore. And essentially what he talks about in his great book called Perennial Seller is he talks about your book being a manifesto to the point where you would literally tattoo your arm with your book title. So he has a book called Ego is the Enemy and another one called The Obstacle is the Way. And he has it tattooed on his arm. Why does he do it? Because it's a reminder of the way that he wants to live. So what if your book title was something that was so poignant, so powerful, so part of somebody else's life that they said, that is my life mission. That's my manifesto. That's something that I want to live for my life. And therefore I'd be willing to tattoo it on my arm. Okay, so here's your action step as a result of this video. What I want you to do is I want you to come up with 10 different titles, and all of them are about the end result, the promise. How do you want somebody to think after they read your book? Come with a couple ideas. How do you want somebody to feel after they read your book? Come up with a couple ideas. What do you want somebody to do as a result of reading your book? Come up with a couple ideas and work it. Change those words. Each of those words in your book title really matter. And ideally, you're able to come up with something that's really sticky, something that lasts, something that people can look at and go, that is the way that I want to live. That's something that I want to be part of my life. That's something that's important to me. That's my manifesto for living. And if you can do that, a good book title will overcome some bad writing, which is really powerful. You put yourself in a great position in order to get the book in the hands of more people. I hope that inspires and encourages you. If you need more help, just go to hopebooks.com.